Hello, this is our podcast Speak Now, and today we're doing an episode on Trans Awareness Week. We have a very special guest, Christian, from GenderSpace UK, coming to speak to us today. Hello.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here and speak to you.
Welcome to Speak Now, the podcast where we break down the biggest social, political, and societal issues of our time. No filter, no holding back. I'm Libby, and I'm here to dive into the conversations that matter, spark those tough questions, and amplify the voices that need to be heard. Whether it's politics, climate change, or the culture shift shaping our future, we're not here for surface level chatter, we're here to get into the heart of it all. So if you're ready to speak your mind and hear what others have to say, you're in the right place. Let's get started. You're listening to Speak Now.
Hi, I'm Layla.
Hi, I'm Libby and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Christian and my pronouns are he, him.
Hi, I'm Chris. My pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Paris. My pronouns are he, him.
What is your initiative and what do you believe in with GenderSpace UK?
So I am a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker, and I created GenderSpace UK to be able to educate as many people as I could nationally about the subject of gender identity and to increase people's awareness so that society can be more inclusive for gender non-conformity and gender diversity. So it's really to put myself out there, be very visible, and to educate people more.
That's absolutely amazing. So we've got a couple of questions. We'll just open the board.
Do you believe that there should be gender awareness and education in schools among young people?
Yes, I definitely do. Some of you may be aware that I do work in schools, mainly high schools, so from year 7 upwards, but also in colleges and universities as well. And I think it's really important that children and young people see positive role models and also that they get to see people that may identify in the same way as them. Because when I was going to school as a young person, I found it really difficult being gay and being transgender because I couldn't really find anybody else like me because people, they were just too scared to be themselves. And I think that was because there wasn't education. So hopefully by coming into schools, like I've been into your school and talked about my journey, it will help people to just feel more comfortable being who they are.
That's amazing. So I was wondering, I've seen a lot on the GenderSpace page about the fact that you used to be a police officer. Is there anything you could tell us about your experience as a police officer and also being transgender and how you sort of went about dealing with the stuff with transitioning but also continuing your career?
Yeah, so I was a police officer, a detective sergeant for 27 years. Um, all of my service was in Merseyside Police, and I found it very difficult feeling comfortable enough to actually come out and be me. And I think that is because there is still a lack of inclusivity for people of difference within policing. So certainly for me as an LGBT plus person and a police officer, I found it quite challenging to be able to be me. But it just got to a point for me in policing that I had to be truthful to myself and to come out as a trans person. But it was extremely challenging. But I'm really happy to say that before I left the police service, that I had educated a lot of people, and that hopefully now there's a lot more people in the police service that feel that they can be open as trans people.
So you've talked a lot about the fact that you were in the police service. When you finished your serving in the police, what did you then move on to do?
So I'd already set up my business, GenderSpace UK, before I left policing. So that was kind of ready to go. So I left policing one day and then I became a professional speaker the next day, talking about my journey of being trans in society. And that's been going for 4 years now. And over a period of 4 years, it's grown and grown. And I get to work in places like schools, housing, charities. I work a lot with autism charities. And I've also visited Parliament quite a lot, talking about my journey and helping them to become more inclusive. So it takes up all of my time.
Absolutely amazing. I'd love to hear about how much you speak about things because, especially with us as a youth council, we have a lot of things that we want to speak out about. So it's lovely to know that there's people who are older than us who can look out for us and also help us understand the world a bit more. I think it's really good that you're doing this for not only people of our age, but everyone, because it definitely is helping our society move forward.
I think, we've all got a voice, haven't we? And whether we're a young person or an older person like me, it's really important to feel that you can have that voice about whatever you want to talk about in society, because it can influence people. You can really create positive change in communities. For example, on Monday of this week, I got to speak to a room full, probably a couple of hundred people, of senior leaders in the NHS and healthcare. And I was able to influence them to become more inclusive as nurses and doctors when trans people present in hospitals. So it's a real opportunity for you and for me, I think, to change society.
Would you have any advice for young people to come out as trans who don't feel comfortable or anything?
I always think when I get asked this question, I always think, what would I have said to my younger self? Because I knew from about the age of 6 that I needed to be a boy and a man, even though I'd been born female. And unfortunately, there wasn't anybody really there to support me. So I didn't start transitioning till I was turned 40 years of age. So what I would have said to my younger self and what I would say to young people is embrace your identity. Embrace your identity, love yourself for who you are. Don't be afraid to be unique, because we're all very unique, different people in society. If we were all the same, it would be a very boring place. And I think as a young person, as a teenager, sometimes we try and fit in. That's what I was trying to do. And if I had the time to go back and change it, that's what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't fit in. I'd be who I am, and I'd be my authentic self for my earliest opportunity.
As you said in your point, you only started transitioning when you were 40. So do you have any advice for people who have grown up in being the gender but know they weren't that gender and need help realizing that they can still do it despite being older?
That's a really good question, because I did transition a later time in my life, so over the age of 40, I found it even more challenging because I'd been my former self for 40 years. So people had known me for so long. My parents, my siblings had all known me as that other person. And to then change that after 40 years, it's difficult. So my advice to somebody that is coming out maybe later on, a little bit older, is to make sure you know where your support is. There are some fantastic resources out there, locally in Merseyside, regionally, nationally, where you can go and meet other people, groups where you can sit with other people like we are and talk about your feelings. So that would be my advice, is to make sure you don't rush anything, take your time, talk about how you're feeling, because sometimes it becomes a little bit isolating, and find some really important support and friends, even if it is just one person.
So, what is Trans Awareness Week?
So Trans Awareness Week is celebrated every year. It happens in November. So it begins on the 13th of November and it finishes on the 19th. And then the following day, I suppose the culmination of that week of awareness, is an event called Transgender Day of Remembrance. And that is the one day, it's a global event, so it's an international event held all around the world. And the 20th of November is the day that we remember the lives of the trans, non-binary, gender diverse people that we've lost through murder, through transphobic hate crime, and the people that have taken their own lives as well because of bullying and, transphobic hate. But the week leading up to that is really the awareness week when everybody can get involved in schools, in colleges, in universities, in organisations, and they can educate each other about why it's important that we have safe spaces for trans and non-binary people, that we're educated, that we know about the experiences of trans people and the journey that we go through. Because, I talk openly about my journey, and it's been difficult at times. It's been challenging. I've, been on the receiving end of hate crime just because who I am, just because I'm a transgender man. And so to be able to educate people during this week, I think is just a really positive event. And it's an opportunity, even if you're not trans or non-binary, to be a trans ally and to let people know that, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. I'm here to call out transphobic hate crime, and I'm here to help you to educate people as well.
Do you think pronouns are important?
I think as a trans person myself, and for many trans and non-binary people, I think pronouns are really important because they're about our identity. They're about who we are. And sometimes in society or just going about our day-to-day business, we can be misgendered and referred to by the wrong pronouns, and it can be really quite hurtful and upsetting. So I think to be able to introduce yourself with your pronouns or put them on your social media and use them practically or wear a badge, I think it's really important. But also it helps you to celebrate who you are, because when I hear people using my pronouns, which are he, him, it just makes me really happy. So I think they're really important to trans and non-binary people.
I think even people who aren't trans and non-binary, the pronouns are very important to them, because as someone who doesn't typically present myself as a person who identifies as female and is biologically female, I think being invalidated by being called a pronoun that I don't conform with is also something that should be talked about. Because even as a cisgender female, I get people calling me he and him, and then I have to explain to them, which I don't feel people should have to do in any situation, whether they're trans, non-binary. I think people should just say, oh, they're really cool, or oh, he's amazing, not just assume, like, because I've got short hair, that I'm a man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's really important for anybody, because not everybody presents in the way people are expecting somebody to present, and that's when the problem occurs, because people, like you've just correctly said, make assumptions based on how we're presenting. So I think pronouns just really help with that, and if you feel comfortable saying my pronouns are, sometimes it can stop those mistakes from happening as well.
So this was the Speak Now podcast. Make sure to listen to our episodes on knife crime, pride, and our MYP episode, which is our previous episode. You can listen to them on Spotify, YouTube, any streaming platforms. Thank you. This was the Speak Now podcast, your podcast made by young people for young people.